everyone, we are Geeks Not Nerds. I'm Captain Logan.
And I am Vince.
And today, our question comes from Pink Yellow Eater. And he says, should an ongoing comic book series have some kind of ending or conclusion like a TV series? That's a question, and then he goes on. TV series like Lost, for example. Lost was created with an ending from the beginning. A lot of these ongoing comics end up being canceled and don't have any conclusion. Now, first of all, let me say that I don't think Lost actually was made with an ending. Like, I think they had a good idea of kind of where it was going to go, but when they first did that, they did it as kind of a 2-hour movie. They didn't even know if it was going to get picked up, and so I think they had an idea of where it was going, but they didn't have an ending. Anyway, regardless of that, let's answer his question. Vince?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say I'm a little scared to ask where he got his name.
Yeah, moving on.
Anyway, I think that a series, ideally, should start out with a set ending. Say, this is where we want to take the series.
And are you saying TV and comics?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm saying across the board, I think that people should know where it should stop. Now, that being said, I do think that there is a certain longevity that can be played into things. Meaning that you're not going to have an ending for X-Men. You're not going to have an ending for Superman. But I think there should be an ending for Walking Dead. I think that when... almost said Romero, different guy. I think that when Kirkman ends his series, or when he stops writing, it should be done. I think he should have...
And they shouldn't make any more.
He should have a cap on it. I don't care if he kills off everybody and does a cop-out ending or something. He should know where he's going.
I like that. I think it depends entirely on what it is and what kind of series it was intended to be. Comics and TV shows. You said things like Spider-Man and X-Men, really good examples. Those are things that can easily be episodic. So I think something that is meant to have a story that's beginning, and I'm talking about TV shows more right now, but you have something that's, let's say like TNG, Star Trek The Next Generation. If they had had good ideas post-Season 7, because that last season wasn't so good, they could have gone forever with that show, because it's an episodic show. Every episode is a standalone story, but if you get something like, say, Babylon 5, that needed to end because it was this big long, or Deep Space Nine, those shows needed to end because it wasn't just an episode every, a story every episode. It had one, it had a length.
I think Ultimate X-Men is a good example to use right here.
Okay.
Because I feel like that was a series that had a set ending in it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that it necessarily meant that everybody was not usable post that, but I think as soon as Beast died, and those of you who haven't read it and wanted to have just now had it ruined for you, but as soon as Beast died,
I'm never going to read it.
As soon as Bendis took over, it got really bad. Because it was a very much so in tone a war comic book that focused on a special ops team, essentially. Even though that wasn't exactly what it was, that was the tone and that was the feel. But then they got to the end of that.
Kind of like when you get a TV show, when you get like a drama and people tune in to find out whether or not like a couple are going to get together, and then they get together and then they keep making the show, but then their viewers die off. You know what I mean? That's because Lois and Clark. That's because the show was, will these people ever get together? Which means they shouldn't until the last episode, right?
Yeah.
Clark Kent really shouldn't have become anything like Superman until the final episode of Smallville. He's too close there. He should be wearing a costume right now, but he's still not wearing a costume because they're not going to do anything like that until the final episode, or probably not even then, considering Tom Welling's contract.
See, they should take a page out of Smallville and do the whole whiny thing and then get together several times, and then it's okay because everybody's interested for whatever reason. Did you see that anger? Sorry.
For those of you that couldn't tell, that was sarcasm.
Chilling.
Anyway, so yeah, it depends on what kind of a series it is, and it also depends. It also depends on whether or not characters are meant to age, and this goes a lot more to do. This has a lot more to do with comics than it is with television shows, right? You can do Spider-Man and Batman forever because Batman's going to be whatever age he is, and I guess he's different points, but 25, 30, 35, whatever age he is, he can be that in 1938, and he can be that in 2010. But you take something like Spawn, where time continues through. I mean, like a lot of time passes as Spawn goes along, and the characters in Spawn age. Spawn doesn't because he's Spawn, but I mean the characters in that series age, and I think that's a series that should have had a set ending because it. I mean, I guess because of the fact that Spawn doesn't age or die, it wouldn't necessarily have to. But you know what I mean. Something like that. You've got it ages. The character's age. Do we really want 100 years of Spawn? I don't know.
I think that TV shows and comic books tend to go on until they get bad, and then there can be new life breathed into them, depending. But
or they should just put down the dog. Yeah.
And I think a good example, and you may agree with me, I'm not sure, is Chuck right now.
Vince. I love that show. It's one of my favorite shows. It's one of my favorite shows ever. Yeah. It shouldn't get a season 4.
Yeah.
I don't. In fact, I don't want it to get a season 4. I feel like the season has been all over the place. I feel like they've kind of restarted in several points, and they're meandering. It's ready to end. It's done. Yeah. They're out of ideas.
See, I think there should be an ending here. They need. I don't know if they're working towards anything. I don't care anymore.
I don't either. I'm still watching it because it's funny, but
interestingly enough. Supernatural. I know you haven't been watching it.
I haven't.
But Supernatural, I feel like they started without an ending. They had no idea where they wanted the show to go, and I think that they are working towards it well. I feel like they have an ending that is in sight just because they can roll with the punches.
Now, would you say, because I haven't watched it, would you say that Supernatural is one of those shows, though, that began as kind of episodic and then got archy?
Extremely.
Okay, Smallville was exactly the same way, and so you get shows like that and Next Generation to a point. I mean, it never got really archy; it was mostly episodic. But you get shows, you get shows that start kind of archy, and then they get or start kind of episodic, and then they get archy. And I think once you get a show, let's say a show is really episodic for one season, and then by season 2, like Deep Space Nine, gets really archy. At that point, maybe this is a good idea to get a sense of in your head as writers where you want this show to end. It's become something kind of different. X-Files had this problem. If X-Files had never gotten all obsessed with its mythos and gotten archy, it could have gone on for 20 years.
Mm-hmm. I do think that things should be allowed to evolve into new things.
Absolutely.
So if you start episodic, you're not necessarily
confined
to
that.
Yeah.
Unless you can't write the archy well, like X-Files. I mean, that's a show that I don't think anybody ever wanted to see get really archy. I don't know. I was never a giant fan of it, but I certainly didn't ever want it to go that way. So
I think it was almost destined to become archy, whether it was good or not, based on
because of its fan following. Or
I think based on this entire Mulder past, they had to go somewhere into that, and they didn't want to just give it one episode. They had to drag it out.
Yeah.
And so just to get.
I didn't know you ever watched that show.
I watched a little bit,
mm-hmm.
and my mother was really into it. So there's things that I've just gleaned off information while growing up.
So, I'm not sure we've entirely answered the question, because the question was, should comic book series have an ending? And once again, I'm going to say, just like TV, it totally depends on what it is. If it's something like, if it's a big monthly like Spider-Man, Superman, something like that, don't ever end that. In fact, stop starting it over. I want to see those numbers go forever, I want Action Comics to go into 5 digits, okay? But
I do think that there should be endings in those
arcs and stuff?
I think there should be set arcs. I don't think there should be ongoing. If you have an ongoing thing, if you have something that issue 1 is intimately related to issue 500, those issues should have a set ending.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Walking Dead. But Superman, Spider-Man, they should go, 1-shots, 3-issue, 6-issue, 12-issue arcs.
And I'm totally cool with one-shots.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think, though, that we have seen a lot of writers that will do this, where it'll be a writer who gets a run, and then the writer has a beginning, a middle, and end throughout his run. And that doesn't always work out, especially when the writer thought he was going to keep going, but then they put him on another book or something like that happens. But
Bendis at one point said that he knows he did his job if the next writer has an infinitely hard time doing his job. Now, that's in a dramatic paraphrase, but that's what he said, essentially. And I'm thinking, man, he has a point, and that makes him a horrible person.
Yeah, right. Well, hey, we're out of time. What do you think? Do you think that comic books, that comic arcs, and television too, because I think they're both kind of integrated here. Do you think they should have set endings? Do you think it just depends on what kind of thing it is? What is your opinion? Leave that in the comments below. Also, if you have any thing you'd like us to talk about later on, leave that in the comments also. Let me mention that I have seen Iron Man 2. Vince has not seen Iron Man 2 yet. He'll be seeing it sometime in the next couple days, so we will do our review of it sometime this week. And thanks a lot for watching. I'm Captain Logan.
And I am Vince.
And we'll see you next time on Geeks.
Not Nerds. I'm casting a magic spell.
I'm casting a magic web.